Hello, everyone. Welcome to tonight's Global Premier Football Podcast. This is Coach Chidi once again bringing you this wonderful show. And tonight, I have the privilege to be joined by one of my craziest Liverpool fan friend who never stops in believing in miracles. And I don't know how that miracle is going to happen. Please welcome Ilias to our show tonight. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. And yeah, never stop believing. Some wonderful final match day drama that we have lined up for ourselves here.
Yeah, it's crazy how you for me personally, how you keep believing and wishing and hoping that Manchester City are going to sleep and fall on the final day. I mean, I know you guys have had this roller coaster season. It's been all journey for you, and without taking any anything away from what Liverpool has achieved, the two domestic cups, you have it in the bag, and you still have a final Champions League final to look forward to, which for me it looks like more of a revenge than just a normal Champions League final. And now you have Man City on the final day, wishing that Gerrard would do a magic with Aston Villa that day. I don't know how that. Please tell me what you're thinking of Aston Villa and playing Manchester City.
I think it's poetic. I don't think it could have come at a better time in the season. It was written in the stars as far as I'm concerned. And if we come out on top and we win because Villa does the job for us, then it was written. But I've been telling you this all season long, especially the last few matches. I kept telling you, City will sleep, City will drop points, and you kept telling me to not get my hopes up. But lo and behold, it happened. Unfortunately for us, it happened after we dropped points to Tottenham, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that's only setting us up for one of the most incredible spectacles, which is the final match day of the EPL. No other league gets to have this kind of closing day, like the English Premier League does. Months in advance, the champion is already known in France or in Spain or in Germany, and here we are, one match day to go. Barely any space between teams.
Yeah. I think that's what makes the Premier League very exciting and the most interesting league in the world, because of the drama and all the magic that comes with it. The pace of the Premier League is second to none. Many international players sometimes they struggle to adapt to the Premier League. And here, behold, we have final day drama. And as you know, before we started the show, you were talking about things that have happened. Everything that is up for grabs. A lot of things are up for grabs. I think there is only one game that nothing is expected to happen. I think actually two games: the Watford and the Chelsea game, or Chelsea-Watford game, because it will be at Stamford Bridge. So the third position is already sealed, and I think Crystal Palace game as well. I can't remember if that holds anything, But if we look at the other things, the first two teams separated by 1 point. The fourth team and the top fourth position, Tottenham is looking forward to that. Arsenal looking forward to that, and I think Arsenal are lucky because Everton has sealed and have escaped relegation courtesy of their win against Crystal Palace midweek. And then we have who will be joining Watford and Norwich. That is, the relegation battle for me has become more exciting
than the championship.
Than the championship.
I mean, I had hopes for a little while that we might win the title and see Everton relegated too, but that unfortunately didn't materialize.
That was why I called you the craziest Liverpool fan friend. My brother is a Liverpool fan, but he's not crazy like me, because yes, you want to win the Premier League, and as well, you want your fiercest driver to be playing in the lower division.
No, I'd love for Manchester United to go down there too, but
oh my word,
I can't get everything in this life, unfortunately.
I'm glad that you know that, and that's a fortunate thing that you cannot get everything in this life.
But I can keep hoping.
Oh my! Well, anyway, so tell us. We talked about some drama that has happened before on the final day. We remember City's first Premier League, title. It was a game that made Aguero a cult hero,
to a legend,
at the Etihad, and they were fighting for that title against Manchester United, and it was the most crazy end of the season that I had ever witnessed in the Premier League. So
yeah, I mean, 95th minute, a 95th minute, not just match winner but title winner. It's hard to top. I think it's probably the single greatest moment in EPL history. As much as I hate to give anything to City, but it's probably the single most quintessential moment of this league. But you're right. It's there's been last day drama quite often. You and I were talking about the relegation battles. So we have Burnley and we have Leeds that are going to be duking it out on the last day. Now for relegation, 2004, the 04-05 season, we had West Brom that looked like they were going to be relegated down to the championship.
Yeah.
Who on the last day managed to pull a win out of thin air, and somehow, with every other result going their way, managed to on the last day stay in the Premiership,
in the Premier League.
In 06-07, you had Carlos Tevez, who was playing for West Ham, who scored against Manchester United to keep West Ham in the Premiership.
Yeah.
In 2010 and 2011, though, there was even more drama. There were 5 clubs that were able to drop on the final day. Lots and lots of drama. Every single one of them playing, of course, on that last day. And in 2011, Birmingham and Blackpool were relegated, and we haven't seen them since in the Premiership. So anything could happen.
That's how cruel the Premier League is. That the moment you go down,
it's very difficult to come back.
You remember Blackburn?
Yeah, I remember Blackburn.
Oh my goodness!
Blackburn, as far as I'm concerned, they were a staple team in the Premiership. Always in the mid-level, in the mid-tier, sometimes towards the bottom end. But I was used to seeing them on our match sheets, every season, and then for the last 10 years, I haven't.
I remember that season when they had this Norwegian winger, Morten Gamst Pedersen. That he was a terrifying left footer. I was scared of Blackburn. Chelsea playing Blackburn. I was scared of Blackburn at that time, and there was another team. I mean, Watford has come and gone, but I remember there's this season when Watford, I think Solomon Kalou scored the winner for Chelsea in that game against Watford. It was a very, very difficult game. They were very tough to break through. But Blackburn for me, the most surprising team that has never made it back up since they were relegated. And
it's difficult. It's incredibly difficult. You go from playing you go from playing 38 matches in the league to I think 44.
Yes.
Right. Just in league matches, that's 6 more matches that you have to play in a season. You still have to compete for cups. You still have to compete for other silverware.
Yes.
It's difficult. And, we saw Leeds, for example, climb back up into the Premiership just very recently.
Mm-hmm.
And they had, I think, what was it, 7 years of difficulty trying to come back?
That we're talking about Leeds now. The other team that I really pity is Sunderland.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, how they have suffered from Premier League to Championship, and from Championship to League One. And now they're trying. I think they're in the playoffs to be able to come back to the Championship. So imagine the difficulty, the losses that they have experienced trying to play in the Premier League, trying to get back to the Championship, not even playing.
I mean, think about all those clubs that were European royalty at one point, like Nottingham Forest, whose only moment in the sun is playing an FA Cup, 4th round against Arsenal. Unfortunately, like you said, the EPL is cruel. I think football in general is cruel.
It is a very cruel game.
If you have a streak of bad luck, it can be really hard to recover from that.
Yes.
But there's always hope. There's always hope.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know why you're saying all these things. I know.
Hey, listen, I have earned it. I was a fan of Liverpool before that magic night in Istanbul. And let me tell you, all these years before the Klopp era, I suffered. Everyone making fun of me for choosing the one team that couldn't win the Premiership. Who's laughing now?
Taken your toll. Yeah, you've taken your toll of suffering, and honestly, you guys have earned the respect of many teams. I know you are always, respected in the Champions League because you have a pedigree in the Champions League, but and I think in the Premier League, you have always been the whipping team, that the team that, gets up there and then sleeps and then falls and then, can finish the race. Remember
it's the Robin Hood, the Robin Hood moniker, right? You take from the big clubs to give to the small clubs. And Liverpool was that club for a long time. Mm-hmm. Very glad to see that it's Manchester United now and Arsenal that have taken that spot instead. But no, it's an unofficial title that someone has to bear, and it can be very difficult to be a fan of a club during one of those periods.
I mean, I respect Liverpool a lot. I admire the type of football Liverpool play right now, not before. Even under Rafael Benitez, because of I dreaded playing Liverpool, honestly speaking. I dreaded Chelsea playing Liverpool anytime, I remember the times of Milan Baros, Vladimir Smisser, yes, Ipia, even Xabi Alonso. There were players that I was terrified and honestly, one of the most there were two terrified players players that terrified me a lot when they were playing for Liverpool. One was Fernando Torres.
He wasn't the same after you guys took him, was he?
He was not the same.
But he did get you to the Champions League final.
He did. Thanks to him, we were able to crush Barcelona. And there's another player that you may be surprised that I'm going to mention, Ryan Babel.
Really?
Honestly speaking, Ryan Babel terrified me.
Why not Craig Bellamy? I mean, if we're gonna go with a random name, why not?
No, Craig Bellamy.
Why not Peter Crouch? Ryan Babel of all people.
Yeah, why I said Ryan Babel was that there was this energy for me that he carried when he played Chelsea. It was as
Yeah.
if, I mean, he was quick, and also he was younger then. But he was very quick, and his dribbling skills were also very good. And then I remember then we struggled with in our left back position before we got Ashley Cole. We struggled when Bridge was not that. You can compare when Bridge with Ashley Cole, with all due respect. I remember this Spanish guy we brought in from Valencia then. I can't remember his name. His name is just sticking in my head, but I can't remember his name again. But Ryan Babel was one of the players that, because of the energy and because of his quickness, because of his speed, when on the ball, for me, he terrified me then. But back again to, I know you're dreaming, but be realistic. Tell me, what do you think is going to happen on Sunday? Let's start with the champions.
All right, look,
do you want us to start with the
my deepest fear?
First?
My deepest fear is that, well, of course it's a hyperbole, but that City trounces Villa and that we somehow crumble in front of Wolves, and all of this has been for nothing. I would just
prophesied.
That would just be an embarrassment, and I really hope it doesn't happen. I
asked you a question before. I asked you. I said, which do you prefer, Champions League or the Premier League? Now, remember, the Champions League, on Sunday to be 1 week before the Champions League or 6 days before the Champions League final. And remember the game against Southampton, what you guys did, you removed Salah was not there, all the top players, because Salah did not finish the FA Cup final game.
Yeah, we rested him just to avoid injury.
Van Dijk did not. Yeah, Van Dijk did not finish. And personally, I don't want you guys to be a mediocre team in the Champions League final. That's why I know. I'm going to be honest. Yes, it's good that you're dreaming that you want this to happen, but you guys will not win the Premier League. My prediction has always been, yes, you beat us in the Carabao Cup. You beat us in the FA Cup final, which was not easy. It was 120 minutes of football. Both games were, 240 minutes of football, which was good. It meant that we were not just pushovers, and we were just not.
I think you deserve to win it just as much as we did both times. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But
honestly, to answer your question, Chidi, of course I'm going to pick the Champions League. Of course I'm going to pick the Champions League. But if you tell me that there's a possibility that I can have both, come on.
You all are human beings, so you must remain mortal men. By just 3. Okay? I'm not giving you that quadruple. And that's funny statistics you sent me of what's it called again? I think you said Liverpool winning by 5, and then Man City.
Oh yeah.
That's the most ridiculous thing.
The playoff game.
Yeah, I think playoff game thing.
I think it required City to lose by 6. I think they had to lose 6-0, and we had to draw 5-5. But it's that social media craziness where some person just decides to put up some numbers and come up with some hypothetical solution. You think I'm crazy? That person's crazy. But if I'm being honest, like especially with the way that especially with the matchups on the final day for the title, being realistic, I think it's City's title to lose. Anything can happen. Anything can happen in 90 minutes of football. So I will keep my hopes up that Villa can manage a miracle for us, and we can avoid tripping over our own feet.
No way it's happening
against Wolves, but I think it's going to go City's way. I'll remain hopeful, but I'm very interested to see what's. Sorry, what?
Even if Gerrard plays, what's going to happen?
I have a feeling Aguero is going to be running down the sideline, and Gerrard will just stick out a leg by. I didn't see him there. I was just stretching, and getting himself expelled.
Yeah.
But no, I'm interested to see how the rest of the table plays out.
Mhm.
I think Leeds is going to fight hard to stay. I think Burnley might be the ones being relegated.
Wow.
But
Wow.
that'll depend entirely on their ability to regroup and to perform. They won't have it easy because I think they're a point behind Burnley. So Burnley definitely needs a win.
I think they're on the same point.
Same points now?
Yeah, I think they're on the same point. The only thing for Leeds is that they have a massive goal difference in the negatives.
Yeah.
They were conceding goals here and there.
They've been conceding too much. Conceding
a lot of goals here and there. A lot of goals. I mean, I told one of my friends, who couldn't join us tonight, I told him Leeds will stay, Burnley will drop, Spurs will qualify for the Champions League, Arsenal will lose out and will play in the Europa League. I think they have to go back and start in the Europa League again to build their credibility. If you want to make any,
I think they'll end up going back to the Europa League to become the English punching ball, more likely. But
I mean, they have to start somewhere. Arteta has to build reputation. You don't just come up right there and Anyway, that's my take on Arsenal. I want Tottenham to qualify for the Champions League. It's not because I like Tottenham as a team, but because I love Antonio Conte. That is why. That is really why I want Tottenham to qualify for the Champions League. I still want to see Conte in the Premier League. And right now, I don't see him going to any other team in the Premier League, except if Arsenal decides to fire Arteta, then they can bring in Conte. But right now, my predictions with the City will win the league, and Arsenal are going to come 5th. Liverpool 2nd, Chelsea already 3rd for tying their game against Leicester yesterday. And then I think Tottenham playing Norwich away. Some people were thinking, like crazy people like you that believe that there's a miracle of Norwich beating Tottenham. I don't see that happening because Tottenham has something to play for, and they are much more better team. And because of that,
I think you're right. I think Tottenham is going to pull through. And I mean, if they didn't, it would be embarrassing to say the least. I think they would be a laughing stock yet again. I agree with Leeds staying up. I don't know how you feel though about 6th place, Man United and West Ham.
Man United is almost a forgotten team. That's how bad they've become this season, that they're almost a forgotten team. Remember back in those days, you cannot talk English Premier League without mentioning Man United. You cannot.
I think people have been giving Manchester United too much credit. I respect the club. I respect its history and everything that they've achieved. Hate them as a rival, of course. But I think a lot of their success has been due to Alex Ferguson. Sir Alex Ferguson built that club from top to bottom. As he so eloquently put it, he knocked Liverpool off of their perch and proceeded to dominate the first 20 or so seasons of the English Premier League.
Yeah.
But as soon as he left, everything went down. They had an opportunity for some changes with Jose Mourinho. He came in and he won them a couple of trophies. One of the Community Shield and the Europa League. But they fired him. And they brought in They brought in Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
Yeah.
And they continued down that road of mediocrity. And I think that Man United without Alex Ferguson would not have been able to do any of what they did, even with that generation that they had.
Yeah.
So I think he's the household name, not so much the club, if I'm being honest.
Yes, I agree with you. They've made, I think, first of all, when he left, for me, I think he's the greatest manager in English football. And by the reason of how he managed the team, managed the players, managed the entire club, the ins and outs of the team, all the players, none of them were above him. No one was making decisions. He was the only one making, and he knew what he was doing. It's not someone who didn't know what he was doing, was just talking.
He was also managing in a very different era, right? If you look at the type of characters he had to deal with, I mean, hotheads like Cantona and Keane, right? Players who were prone to violence, and even David Beckham and Cristiano Ronaldo. You have young up and comers who, in their time, were stars and divas, if you will, in their own right. And he was able to manage those. And then you look nowadays, and Eric Den Haag isn't exactly able to contain a guy like Pogba.
Yeah.
So I think a lot has changed in terms of managerial capabilities at Old Trafford, and I think it's the primary reason for their fall from grace. They don't have a disciplinarian, and I think they need one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they allowed it to happen because first they got David Moyes, and after that they got Louis van Gaal, and then they got Jose. I think Jose.
Sorry, I can't help myself from laughing at every name.
I mean, Jose would have been the man that they should have trusted and giving him the same power and authority they gave to that Sir Alex had. But and also, as you mentioned, it was in a different era. But I think those players also were able to play for the manager. They were not just playing for themselves; they were playing for the badge. But the players that Jose inherited, they were, and they've made a lot of mistakes, and they made a lot of mistakes in the transfer market. And I think they made
Harry Maguire, most expensive defender.
Unfortunately for Harry Maguire, there are some moves that players should not make, no matter what. I think players should be able to know themselves better, and also know the pressure that comes with playing for a certain club, and know if they can handle that or if not, because after, a club like Manchester United, for every Manchester United fan out there, with all the, the success that they have experienced with Sir Alex Ferguson, and then they start experiencing this up and down, saying no consistency.
I mean, it must be crushing.
It's very, very crushing. They'll think like, their world is coming apart, which definitely.
Listen, you and I started talking about Harry Maguire, but I mean, he's not the only transfer mistake they've ever made, right? Think of like players like Marouane Fellaini.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, Moyes brought him because he was his team, he was his player at Everton, but does he have the characteristics to play for Manchester United? I don't know.
If you were to take another player, look at Lukaku, right? Lukaku at Chelsea versus Lukaku at Inter, right? It's not the same player, completely different animal, right? We talked about Torres earlier, right? Torres at Liverpool, Torres at Chelsea, completely different animal. Just because one player is capable of doing one thing in one environment doesn't mean they have the capacity to do that in a different one. Exactly. Can he do it on a cold, rainy night in Stoke?
Oh, here comes again this very common saying. This cliche will never die, will it? It will never. But anyway,
because the question has to be asked. with everything that so and so can do, can they do it on a cold winter night in Stoke?
Yeah.
The answer is probably no. The EPL is a unique tournament. It's a unique championship. It's a unique league. When you look not only at its makeup, you also look at the geography of each team that plays in there. In one tiny little island, you have all these weather extremes from one end to the other. You know, I think it absolutely plays a huge role in that dramatic feel that the tournament gets.
Yes. Yeah, you're right. I mean, players. So that tells you that in England, even between clubs and the different locations and geographical locations of these teams, it's not even easy for them to adapt and readapt to these teams wherever they are located, and that comes back again to Man United fighting for what we're talking about, Conference League position here
for sixth place, yeah,
sixth and seventh place, West Ham. And imagine West Ham has plus 11 goal difference, and Man United only has +1.
I mean, how times change.
Right? It is
times change.
Unbelievable. It is unbelievable.
I don't think I've ever seen, I mean, at least going back to my youth, I don't think I'd ever seen Manchester United with anything less than +15.
Yeah.
In goal difference ever. And never out of the top 4.
Yes. Remember Mourinho? I know you remember this. Jose Mourinho was talking about his greatest achievement was coming second behind Manchester City.
Yeah.
And people were laughing at him.
No, but with the team he had?
Yeah.
With the team he had?
Jose.
Yeah. People have always given him shit, and I don't blame them. He's easy to hate. I've found myself hating on Jose Mourinho, but I mean, if you look at everything he's done, he's arguably the most accomplished manager in the world.
Yeah.
And for him to have been able to come second, I mean, with the team he had, just look at it. When he left, look at what happened. They completely crashed out of the top 4. They were barely hanging on by the time he got there.
Yeah, they were. I think he reestablished something, but the likes of the glass feet players who don't want to put in their legs out there because they think that they will break them, they don't want to play anymore. They had the players like Pogba, had his.
I mean, you can understand a player who doesn't want to, hurt their livelihood. To me, at least, it makes sense. But it's not so much a lack of willingness to get stuck in. I think it's more of a lack of spirit in general. You don't have that team spirit, that cohesion. What you end up getting effectively is a bunch of individuals playing on the same team.
Yes.
But they're not part of the same team. They're not part of one single unit. Each one is out there for their own selves, right? They're either out there for an increase in transfer value or for an increase in salary or an increase in sponsorships or in followers or whatever. They're not actually there necessarily for the glory.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they stopped playing for the club. They stopped playing for the badge. They stopped playing for the fans, no matter what. But honestly, I mean, how can they hurt their livelihood? Because they're already living their livelihood. For me, that's what I think. I mean, and Jose is not asking them to, do something that they have not been doing before. It's just putting a little bit of extra effort, putting a little bit of extra, interest in playing for the badge, in winning something for the club, because honestly speaking, I can't place my mind or any hand on why the players were not able to perform. If they were like, oh, I don't want to go into hard, they were playing so fragile. Jose knew that these guys have more to give, but they were not willing to give it. And at the end of the day, Jose got fired. And when Jose got fired, who came in?
Ole.
Okay, so bringing
and he
Ole,
repeated the same mistakes that his predecessors made. He compounded those mistakes. And the Glasners, for whatever reason, they kept him.
Yep. Because he's a legend. They should have also brought in Roy Keane then if they're looking for legends to coach the club.
They should have brought in Gary Neville too while they're at it.
Yeah. The Neville brothers that ran away from Valencia, they thought that coaching is just a walk in the park. And then he went to Valencia. He saw with his eyes, he saw his ears, and like, I'm never stepping into coaching again. But and when Ole left, we forgot. Don't forget that Ryan Giggs had a spell.
Oh yeah, as caretaker.
Caretaker. That didn't work too, because sometimes caretakers, they make them permanent. Give them the permanent position, right? But it didn't work. Carrick. Everyone having a feel of the hot seat.
Everyone had a little. Everyone had their turn in Daddy's seat, and everybody realized that unfortunately they couldn't sit in there.
They didn't know what Daddy has been handling all the time he was handling, for the number of years he did. Yeah, and then, I mean, it's unfortunate for Man United, but
But listen, I think it speaks volumes for Sir Alex Ferguson, because if you think about this, if the players don't work, but a good manager can come in and get them working just enough, then that means that if there are poor players and poor managers, then it's neither the management's fault nor the players' fault. It's ownership.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Ownership has been making the wrong decisions about which players to bring on and which players to sell. They've been focused more about profitability. They've been more about the balance sheet than they have been about points and about records and performance. And they're the ones who decided to back, sure, club legends, but effectively nobodies in the managerial world, and decided to let go of one of the greatest managers of all time.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think it comes down to poor ownership, and poor administration of the club. I don't think it's going to get any better until they sell.
I think so. Yeah, I think so too. I was talking with a friend of mine, and he was like, I'm afraid, when Chelsea, he said, I'm afraid we might be in the same boat with Arsenal and Man United. I said to him, no, that's not going to happen, because first of all, we have a coach who is a no-nonsense coach, and will, get the boys to work hard and to end their playing right. But in Man United, it didn't work that way. The players were not working hard enough. Even the fans know that, the players were not working hard enough, and you getting rid of Jose and replacing him with someone who is not even, this is a problem that we also see at other levels of the game and in other areas of life, maybe in schools, when students don't like that teacher that is strict and, I push them, you must do your own homework, you must come to class on time, you must do this, you must do that, you must do that. Most of the times, what the owners of the school does, or what they do, is that they're like, we get rid of this coach, we get rid of this teacher, we're going to bring the teacher that the students will like, the teacher that, and you look at how the students perform. They might get the grades, but have no idea of how they got the grades.
I think it's more of a matter of popularity than anything, right? Manchester United, despite all their shortcomings, are still the most valuable club in England. They're one of the most valuable in the world. They have a huge brand, huge global brand, an insane presence on social media, and their brand itself keeps on growing.
Yes.
Despite poor results. And I think that what's happening here is that ownership is looking at different metrics to measure performance. And the way they're measuring performance is not in terms of the team's performance. It's measured in terms of profitability. It's measured in terms of popularity. And so that popularity comes from having the players that they have. So if those players say, hey, the coach is too much of a disciplinarian, I don't like him, they would rather sacrifice a good manager who can get points on the board.
Yes.
In order to keep, in order to keep streams and followers and likes, at a certain level. So I agree.
And the real fans are really crying and dying, getting
and
into
I don't
depression.
care because it's Manchester United.
What you mentioned here, I don't know, so when my friend said that he was scared that maybe Chelsea could follow suit in that direction because, these are attributed to American owners, they're looking for profitability, how much money, is coming in and all the areas that they have to get that money from, right? Because, from shirt sales and ticket sales and all these things, TV rights and everything. If you check all the profits that the club can make there, it's much more bigger than what they make winning the Champions League or winning the FA Cup or winning the Premier
it's billions.
League. Yeah.
It's billions. Yeah. There's a good resource that anyone can take a look at. It's the Football Money League. It's published by Deloitte. And every year they have statistics on the top 10 clubs, the top 20 clubs in the world in terms of their value for that particular year.
Yeah.
And of course the typical who's who, Real Madrid, Barcelona, the top six in England, PSG, Bayern, etc. They all feature in there almost regularly, just about every single year.
Yes.
And all it does is grow. All it does is grow. And at the end of the day, it's all that matters.
Yeah.
It's what funds player acquisitions, right? It's what funds stadium capacity increases. It's what funds purchases of feeder clubs overseas and the building of academies and scouting networks. Football is Moneyball nowadays, right? And we saw that with the attempt to create the Super League.
Yes.
Right. That's what it is now. It's a numbers game.
Wow. Well, let's come back to these.
I've given you a lot to stew on this one.
Yes, you've given me a lot. Yeah, let's come back to this. It's the last weekend of the Premier League, unfortunately, but fortunately for the players, they'll be taking rest, after this weekend. Not for Liverpool, not for Real Madrid. They still have won the final hurdle of the season. And but yes, so we've looked at the first two teams. We all believe that City are going to win the league, except
me.
Something except me. And if God says otherwise, that they will bundle it. This, maybe they will do the Liverpool sleep, but practically speaking, we can see.
Hey, now that wasn't nice. That wasn't very nice.
Yeah, we can see Liverpool. We can see Everton. We can see Aston Villa. Even with, remember, Aston Villa's got an ex-Liverpool player, right? Philippe Coutinho. So, and we don't know, and but also they have Ashley Young, a former Man United player. So
who might be motivated. You know, I think he might be torn. Do I?
Maybe he will not play.
Do I put in? Do I put in a good enough game to give the title to one rival over the other? Yeah, that would be a terrible position to be in.
So now let's look at the last two teams, the final spot for relegation. Brentford is playing Leeds United. Unfortunately for Leeds, they are playing at Brentford. And
Brentford have been good.
They have been. Don't remind me about them, because after they trounced me 4-2 Stamford Bridge, I was thinking if we should go and scout some players from Brentford. Their physicality is phenomenal. They have an architect in the midfield in the name of Eriksson, you know, and they have come good, and I think they will stay longer in the Premier League if they continue building on what they have started. Because sometimes these teams,
I think reaching out to Christian Eriksen the way they did after what happened to him, and giving him an opportunity to play where no other club wanted to touch him, has really paid off, right? Because everybody else was worried about insurance issues and liability, and you know, everyone was worried about the bottom line effectively. But a club who only wanted to focus on football was willing to give him a chance, and he's got them in the mid-table.
Exactly. Yeah. He has paid off, and now big clubs might start coming back for Eriksson, but as well he might reward the faith put into him by Brentford by extending his contract, because he had only signed for 6 months, right? Yeah. So we'll see to that, and I think that might be the reason why Leeds might drop. But I hope that my predictions of Leeds staying up works.
I don't know, because Burnley is going to be facing off against Newcastle. Burnley has the advantage of being at home, but Newcastle aren't pushovers, and as much as they're underperforming for where they should be this season, I think they're more than capable of sweeping Burnley aside. So I think the Leeds match is the one that's going to be the real decider.
Yes.
And it remains to be seen if they have what it takes to pull themselves out of the hole they dug themselves into.
Yeah.
I think they can. They fought tooth and nail to get to where they are today, to be able to come back up here. I think on the last day, they'll give it everything they have to be able to stay.
Yeah. There's no more extra game. It's the last game, do or die. That's their Champions League final.
Yeah.
You know, they have to give it all. You know, and I honestly, when the last game I watched them play, which was against Brighton, I thought they were going to lose that game, but they still came back to get a point, which I think that is what is going to give them the impetus to fight again against Brentford. Yeah. Because if they had lost against Brighton, you know, then it will be. I think it would have been.
It would be over.
It would be over.
It would be over.
And they played that game at at home, but their home advantage was not in effect. It wasn't activated that day. So let's see what they're going to come up with against Brentford. Newcastle is trying to build reputation for next season, and I think some of the players in Newcastle will be trying to put their name out there, because some of them will be going out on transfers.
There's going to be a lot of them being during the transfer window. They'll be moving on. Newcastle will be looking to not just build their reputation, but also make a splash in the transfer market with the new acquisitions. So there's going to be some movement there, and they'll want their names in the headlines, for future opportunities. So it's entirely possible. But then again, Burnley will also be fighting to make sure that they stay. So
yes, it will be an interesting game. And my prediction is that Leeds will get a point at least. But just that the physicality of the Brentford team will wear. I'm afraid
they're tough.
Will wear Leeds down. They are very tough.
They're very, very tough. Yeah, I didn't expect it. I didn't expect we played them. We played them twice every season, and every time it's a roller coaster ride. I don't know what's going to happen from one moment to the next. Our players always end up getting, shouldered off the ball.
Mm-hmm.
They play with a lot of physicality, but they're
do.
clean. But they're also clean, right?
Yeah.
So it's difficult. It's difficult to be inside an opponent's head when they're not only physical, but they also don't make mistakes. They're clinical at the same time. It's very, very difficult to get in the head, very difficult to get past them, very difficult to gain an advantage. So it could be a real challenge for Leeds, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as you were just saying these things right now, I was just recalling the 4-2 against them. We lost pathetically against them, man. And their physicality on it. I look at Chelsea players, there's no physicality in the Chelsea team as far as I'm concerned. I mean, we have Christian Pulisic. I mean, that guy's like a leaf for me. You just with your finger like this, he's on the ground. Yes, he's good on the ball, but he can hold off any. He cannot hold off any opposition.
You blow on him, he falls over. Yeah,
basically. So imagine when you go shoulder to shoulder, it's like it's like a 20-year-old playing against a 10-year-old. That's what Pulisic is like for me. Especially against physically,
but Americans think he's the greatest in the world, right?
Yeah.
That Pulisic guy, he's better than Messi.
Did you see the sitter he missed against Leicester? He just missed the sitter in against Leicester. And
but that's been the story. That's been the story of Chelsea with Pulisic and with Timo Werner. It's been a couple of.
I would take Timo Werner ahead of Pulisic because of Timo Werner, because of his speed. Also, he can be physical. I know Timo Werner has lost his mojo as a finisher, as a striker. From what we know about him when he was in Leipzig, but it was not as if Pulisic was the savior for Chelsea, because he was not even when he joined Chelsea, he was not making the headlines in Dortmund. He was not the first team. He was not a regular player in Dortmund. We forget that. Yes.
I only started hearing about him once the transfer interest came in. And that's usually what ends up happening. That's usually what ends up happening is you'll have a player whose value is overinflated because a big club comes knocking. Yeah. And that player who maybe isn't quite at the level or isn't quite ready ends up joining the team with all these expectations and all that pressure building up from the media and from the fans, and sometimes they don't make it.
There are players that when you hear about them, like, you have some hopes, but not for me, not with Pulisic, not with Ziyech anymore. I used to think of Ziyech differently, when he was in Ajax, the way he played.
You were really happy to see him join Chelsea.
I was, but nowadays, I think also it's because of the nature of the Premier League, right? No one allows you to roll by them just like that. They're going to come to you physical, very physical.
I think every club is also different, right? If you look back to Salah when he played at Chelsea, he was very. I mean, it's night and day when you compare him to the Salah playing at Liverpool. Every club has their own style, right? Their own tactical design. They have their own priorities as well, right? Whether it's bringing on a lot of foreign well-known stars or developing their own talents, right? So every club has a different culture, different style, different management, different everything. And so I don't think that the same player will develop the same way at two different clubs.
Yeah.
So it could just be that he's just not a right fit, and sometimes it comes down to that, right? In transfers, you try to find you try to find a player who's going to be the best fit for your organization.
Yeah.
But oftentimes, especially in the modern game, in the more modern era, owners and directors of football will make the mistake of going for that particular prolific player and that one there, versus one that'll actually put in the work and get the results week in, week out, right? That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to put it, because some of these players that, for example, Chelsea signed, they were not signed by the managers. I think the directors went for popularity. Maybe my friend would tell me, "Oh, we were. I think they were looking at the American market for Pulisic. That was why they brought him in." And
just to be able to get their name out there, so that when they go on tour, they get more fans, more money coming in.
Exactly.
But look at Kepa. I mean, look, he's not a bad keeper, but we get Alisson and make him the most expensive keeper in the Premier League. And what do you do right away? You go and find another keeper and make him the most the most expensive in the Premier League. But except that while ours was tested, yours wasn't, and it just
ours was not tested at all. No,
it's basically a pissing contest, is what it is.
Yeah.
It's, well, I can drop down more money than you can on some random player from the Basque Country, right?
But I
look
think
at Edward Mendy. You got him for a fraction of the cost, and he's 10 times the goalkeeper that Kepa is.
Yes, you're right. I think for one thing I like about Liverpool's, transfers is that I think the manager's hand is involved. The manager is involved in the transfers. The
manager's been involved since Klopp came in. That was something that was made. That was agreed upon and made very clear up front. Because for a long time, all we had was a director of football that was handling it and not doing such a great job.
Oh my!
Even under Brendan Rodgers, 40 million. Do you know what I could have done with 40 million?
Oh my goodness!
If they had paid 40 million for me, I would have put in more goals than Eddie Carroll. And I'm a fat motherfucker.
Goodness.
Sorry. I apologize to your audience for my choice of language.
Please, thank you for apologizing.
But
bad words are prohibited. But anyway.
But I like that. I like what we've done in the last 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
I think I sent you a statistics of the comparison between Liverpool and Everton's last 5 years worth of transfers.
Yeah.
And not only is our gross spend, but also our net spend lower than theirs.
Mm-hmm.
We've gotten more players out of all the deals that we've done, and we've won, I think, 5 trophies in that time. 6 now, right?
For Everton, all these teams. I think it's not all about throwing the money out there, and that's what Everton has done. And look, up till today, up till yesterday, actually, they were fighting to stay up in the Premier League. So imagine if they had gone down.
It would have been embarrassing.
It would be. It would have.
They wouldn't have lived it down for years to come, right?
No.
I mean, we still have club fans making songs about what another club did 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
That's something you'd never get to live down.
I think if Everton goes down, if they had gone down, they were not coming up, because all those players will leave.
Yeah.
The Charlton will never play a season in Championship. No way. Even Calvert-Lewin.
And you know what? A lot of players that sign in the EPL outside of the top 6 will have relegation clauses in their contracts, and it's interesting. So they'll have an exit clause at, say, I'll give you a random number, say 40 million, which is cheap nowadays. 40 million as a regular exit clause. But if you're relegated, that clause drops down to 25.
Hmm.
So if a club ends up relegated, you can end up purchasing their players at discount if they have one of those relegation clauses.
Oh wow.
I can't speak as to the nature of Everton's contracts because I don't know them off the top of my head. But I wouldn't be surprised if they had some relegation clauses in there, and
Wow.
all those players would be gone for dirt cheap, barely a return on investment made by the club, and then good luck finding
replacements.
Finding not just replacements but hungry rising talents to come and play for you in the championship when they could easily get a spot in the EPL. Right?
The EPL. I think that's what happened to Sunderland, because I remember, I watched the show Sunderland Till I Die. So I can't remember in what episode, that was that the manager was furious that, he was already planning, but some of these star players are actually already on their way out because they had those clauses on their contract and they were just going to leave, and they were struggling to find players. You talk to any player, they're like, oh, no. Even last deals, they would just like, no, they just leave, they go to another club. Because playing in the championship, it's very, very difficult. And that's why I think Sunderland has really, really struggled, and they do not have the money. Like, I think Fulham has money.
The money is the big part.
Yeah.
Because it's once you drop down to the championship, I mean, the difference in prize money is staggering.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you're even if you win the championship, you don't make nearly as much money as if you get relegated from the Premier League. Yeah. So, bottom place of the Premier League will make more money in terms of TV rights money than the French champion.
That's
the Sky Sports deal.
The Premier League.
The Sky Sports deal is huge. It's the single most televised league in the world. It has the biggest audience, and so there's the most prize money for winning it. It's the only league that even comes close to the Champions League pot money, right?
Wow.
It's the only league. So there's a lot of money at play. So when you do leave, when you do end up being relegated, it can be really difficult to come back from that, because they just don't give you the means to climb back up the way that you would have been used to.
Yeah.
So you're right. I wouldn't be surprised, but it's not going to happen. At least not this season. Sadly,
least not this season.
So I'm hoping that whatever force is out there acting in my best interest decides to give me a little icing on the cake here and give us a second EPL title.
Now I'm going to ask you this: no matter how hard and how hot in this could be, you're going to give us, just to wrap up this show, you're going to give us your predictions. Okay? I'm going to ask you for the first two, and then the fourth position, and the fifth and sixth, and then the team that will join Watford and Norwich in the championship next season. So, as it hurts, I know you're a Liverpool fan. Go for it.
I'm gonna work my way from the relegation all the way up to the championship. Relegation. Okay. I have Leeds. I'm predicting Leeds, though I have a feeling. I'm predicting Leeds to stay. I'm predicting Burnley to drop.
Okay.
For sixth place, which is actually, I think, it's still a Europa League spot, not the Conference League. I think seventh is the Conference League.
Okay.
So sixth would be for Europa League, and I think that'll go to West Ham.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I think Manchester United will be making their first foray into the European Conference League, and Cristiano Ronaldo is about to go from 20 years in the UCL to his first season in in the UCL Farmers Division.
Farmers Division. The high school boys.
Yeah. Top four, I agree with you. Tottenham. Yeah. Tottenham's going to take top 4, and Arsenal will come in 5th. And for the top 2,
bring it on.
I'm predicting a 2-0 win for Liverpool.
Okay.
And I'm predicting a 2-1 loss for Manchester City.
By the way, Man City are playing Aston Villa, right? And they're playing at the Etihad.
They're playing at the Etihad. They're playing at the Etihad. Yeah.
Okay.
But listen, they've had. I told you before they had the triple injury, and it's been difficult for them.
Okay.
Right. They lost Diaz. They lost a couple other guys, and it's been tough.
I've been looking forward to that. I will keep your predictions at heart come Sunday. But on that note,
a more realistic one would have said 3-0 for City.
That is okay. Now,
but hey, listen. I said 2-1 for Villa. 2-1 for Villa.
That's in FIFA PlayStation, right? Or
that's if things really. I didn't say 6-0 or any of that. It's still possible. 2-1 for Villa is still possible. Don't tell me it's not.
Okay, whatever. Anyway, I'm not going to give any predictions. You already know my predictions. Of course, Man City is winning the league, and they're going to trounce Aston Villa. Unfortunately, Aston Villa will lose by a wide margin. Okay, and that will be used to celebrate the victory. Liverpool will end up not playing their full squad because of the Champions League. That's what my predictions are, and they are going to win. The worst result that they can get will be a tie against Wolves. But I see Liverpool winning, to end the season on a high. But their main goal for me is the Champions League. I don't want any mediocre performance on the 28th.
Neither do I.
Yeah. Spurs will end up 4th. Sorry, Mikel Arteta. Some Arsenal fans still believe that he's not good enough, and that's up to them to decide. And I also believe that Burnley are going to drop, and I hope that Leeds stay. My friend says that Burnley will stay, and Leeds, with their Ted Lasso, the American coach, will drop. All right, bro. Thank you very much for joining me in this episode, and
it's been a pleasure.
We look forward to the next one, and what a roller coaster season we've had, guys. Thank you very much for being part of our season. This is the penultimate. I think we'll have one more prior to the Champions League, and after the Premier League final day, with all the drama that we're looking forward for it to happen. So thank you so much for being part of our journey this season. Please, if you're watching this, go ahead and give us a like. Go ahead and hit that button that says subscribe. Come on.
Lots of subscriptions. Share this.
Share, subscribe. And if you've got football in your head and you might be part of our show, just put a comment there in the comment section, and we can invite you to our next episode. Thank you very much, everyone, and have a good night.